Hey, what's going on, guys? FlynnMasters coming at you with another video, and today I'll be ranking every chef of Hell's Kitchen Season 7, which is interesting because I've always really liked this cast, so this should be easy for me compared to other people who think most of this cast is forgettable. But let's just see how this goes, and let's get right into it with my least favorite chef of the season, with that being Benjamin. And his heel turn is just so bad. Like, maybe if it wasn't like as bad as it was, maybe I'd have him like, above like the forgettable chefs for being memorable. But like he's just so bad. You obviously have a standout bad moments like him talking down to Siobhan, despite her dish, being the best dish of that night of that challenge. What the sandwich challenge or whatever, calling rice poor people food, pushing people out of the way during service, and just in general, like he just had a nasty personality the entire time on the red team. It was just so strange. So I've beaten him to death at this point. Just an awful person Benjamin was when he put a red jacket on, and just that's the thing. He's so nice when he has a blue jacket on, and a black jacket for that matter. But this season with that red jacket on, he was just awful. On to now one of the most forgettable first boots in Hell's Kitchen history, with that being Stacy. And Liddy have nothing to say about her other than at least she wasn't a complete dick like Benjamin was. But yeah, Liddy adds nothing to the season. On to someone who is just a bit more memorable than Stacy, simply by lasting longer, with that being Jamie. And the only thing I gotta say about her is that she had an awful signature dish with a freaking toothpick in the dish. And I did always kind of find it funny how she seemed like so pissed off at her elimination, but was so monotone about it. And for that matter, I mean, Ramsay himself, to her credit, he did call her passionate, and I'm sure she was, but she just came across like not caring at points. So yeah, I mean, not much more to say other than that, but hey, it's more than Stacy. On to someone now who was creepy and a douchebag in Andrew, but at least his rage quit made for one of the more memorable moments of this season, which is more than you can say about Stacy and Jamie. And while yeah, he was an ass, since he did quit so early, he couldn't be as much of an ass as Benjamin. And I will say this. It was pretty savage of him that he indeed leave his shoes in the restaurant when he walked out. Like, hey, credit where credit is due for quitting like a boss, I guess. At number 12 is Mikey. And Mikey is just your typical fun-loving guy that I always like to root for. And yeah, I mean, you could argue he doesn't add more to the season than Andrew, but I don't know. I just simply like him more than the other chefs we talked about so far. Obviously, his Hell's Kitchen tattoo was hilarious. His whole elimination episode was interesting, as he was someone who wasn't even considered for nomination, despite doing bad in 2 straight episodes, only to be eliminated. So, I mean, obviously, not much, but he's way more likable than chefs we've talked about so far, and just a bit more to offer in my opinion. On to number 11, and that is Maria. And she is a kind of forgotten donkey, again, laughing when Ramsay was upset at her and taking him calling her lovely way too literally, like that was funny. And I've talked about her elimination episode, one of the worst episodes from a chef ever, where literally nothing went right for her from beginning to end. I mean, Fran went out of her way to save Scott to get rid of Maria, which should tell you something. So, yeah, just a typical donkey that isn't harmful in any way and makes for fun TV, but just not around long enough to be too high. On to the top 10. I'm sure some of you are surprised I have Scott this high, but the thing is, he's one of those people like you can't help but laugh at, and does make the early portion of the season so fun to me. He is so over the top and arrogant, like you honestly can't believe what you're watching, and yet he constantly fails over and over again, especially when he goes to the red team to try to be their savior. Again, it's just so comical, and his elimination is one of my all-time favorite moments in the show's history. And unlike Benjamin, he wasn't an ass. Like, yeah, he was arrogant, but I'd rather have that than Benjamin do his, his bullying antics or whatever. And he even had a nice friendship with Salvatore, so yeah, why? I mean, I can't put him too high, just how much of an arrogant douchebag he could be at times. But I do generally appreciate what Scott adds to the season, and left just at the perfect time before he became too unbearable. On to someone who a lot of people may find forgettable, especially for a black jacket, but I have always liked Ed. Like, obviously he had his incredible opening night performance, leading the chefs to completing the first ever opening night. And similar to Mikey, just kind of that cool dude to root for, but also very similar to Mikey, went a bit too crazy where he got drunk and stripped down, and which just so funnily enough just so happened to be the beginning of his downfall. Like that's always been really funny to me. And had people forget about his all-time bad service because at the Black Jackets, because it came after Nilka, of course, but man, his service was awful there. So like not anything super amazing or anything, but a cool chef who had his moments here and there, which is why he lands around the middle here at number 9. I'm interested to see what you guys think of these next 2 spots, as they're 2 of the more infamous bad chefs on the red team, which resulted in many of their failures, with the first one being Siobhan. And she's just one of those chefs that, again, due to her failures, but seeming like a totally sweet person, I just want to root for, like she seems so nice and sweet, almost to her detriment at times, like helping out the red team during the egg challenge when she was not supposed to. But like again, you just want to root for her. So I've talked about this in my team ranking video, but I just naturally wanted to root for her and the next chef to make it as far as they could, as it would have been hilarious to see them get a black jacket. And in general, like, what's there bad to say about Siobhan, So just a rootable person despite her failures, and contributing to this all-time bad red team. But nonetheless, still wanted to root for her. Still wanted to root for her, so she lands here at number 8. And speaking of a chef, at number 7 is Fran. And take what I said about Siobhan and put it here for Fran. Except Fran was even worse than Siobhan, you could say. Almost their first boot. Likely only survived over Jamie due to being Bear TV. Even when she had a good night, she still screwed it up by nominating Nilka of all people. Like, she represents the red team to a T. She can just do nothing right. And because of that, at least to me personally, I want to root for her and root for this older lady with fight to make it as far as she can. And say what you will about these two placements, but Fran especially I have always found as an underrated chef, even if it's laughable that she made it to 8th place. On to number 6, and had I not done a story video, she probably would have been a lot lower, but here at 6 I have Holly. And Holly, like I said before, extremely forgettable, almost comically quiet at times for winter. But I will say I did gain a ton of respect for her, especially as a leader. Like, I knew she did damn well despite her being quiet all season, but I think I can now safely say she did even better than Jay, despite me still believing the latter should have won. She used her flirtatious nature to her advantage when it came to the like of Ed and Jay, who just so happened to be the favorites on the blue team. That was pretty funny and savage. So yeah, it's not much, but it's enough, especially since, again, she's just a solid all-around winner who somehow survived the red team. Even more credit to her there. But speaking of Jay, he lands here at number 5, and I know some people don't like Jay. To me, he's that chef you always need in a season, kind of similar to Ariel and Paula and the seasons before him. Just that solid chef who puts his head down and stays out of the drama, and is just a damn good chef. Again, in my opinion, the best chef of the season. Like, I always remember this moment, like him respecting Ramsay's decision to eject the blue team, as he knew they could have done better. Like, they didn't do bad, but he knew that he could have done better. Everyone else was so upset that Ramsay threw them out. They were doing fine, but Jay is like, no, he has high standards. We can do better. Like, that just shows you the type of person he is and how much he respects the kitchen. And as a dude, it is pretty funny as hell that he fell so hard for Holly. Like, you know, I can totally understand that too. So yeah, just some people may disagree with this, but I have Jay in my top 5. At number 4 is a chef who had quite the interesting run, but I don't see her talked about that much, with that being Autumn. And again, that's why I'm always confused when people say like season 7 has nothing going for her. Like, Autumn has one of the more interesting arcs in Hell's Kitchen history. Between seeming like a favorite early on, but getting in trouble for not seeming to care, to then switching to the blue team, one of the best switches of all time, as she really relished with the men, personality-wise, despite her performance still being up and down, which led her getting one more chance on the red team and ultimately sneak her way into a black jacket. Which is where she actually did her best, but still nominated at times, ultimately finishing in 4th place, and tied for the record with the most amount of nominations in 7. So yeah, it's just an incredible run, and she generally deserved to make it as far as she did. Again, wasn't one of those who were kept around for drama type figures. You really felt bad with how hard Ramsay was on her, so I wanted to see her do well. And again, a good part of the season, but to me, she's just simply not as good of a character as the 3 chefs above her. At number 3 is probably the most beloved early boot in Hell's Kitchen history, with that being Salvatore. And I mean, how can you not love the guy? I mean, between his accent and flirty nature, his emotional conversation with Ramsay about not going to school to help out his family, still doing the best he could despite his constant mess ups, you know, and just being adorable throughout, whether it was good or bad. Like, you know, again, I'm calling a 35-year-old man adorable, but it's the truth. He's like a puppy, you know, just a freaking awesome character. My top 2 may surprise some of you, but at number 2 is Nilka. And kind of like with Fran and Siobhan, like, you just want to root for her. But unlike those two, she was actually a good chef. And you just feel so bad that she was on this pathetic team and had to deal with the BS from this team. Like, it seemed Benjamin was always pushing her the most out of the way when it came to the kitchen. She was, like I said earlier, she was literally nominated by Fran for no reason, and understandably just went ape shit on her. That was hilarious. But of course, the main reason why she's this high is due to her all-time bad service. Again, it may be unfair as it's not really a character moment, but it's literally, in my opinion, the second greatest moment in the history of the show. I mean, that alone would put her in the top 5 for me, but also her being a hilarious character and really wanting her to get that black jacket, combine all this stuff, and she is indeed my favorite chef from the red team and my second favorite character of this entire season. But my favorite chef of season 7 is still Jason, and I've obviously touched upon already how much I love the gentle giant archetype, but to me, Jason was not only that, but he was an underdog too. And that's the thing, you don't expect this massive guy with a sneer to be an underdog, but he truly was, as he was outcasted by the blue team for basically no reason as a weak link, and he was dangerously close to going home early a couple times, but despite that, he came back to pretty easily earn a black jacket, and I would love to see what he could have done had he made it to the pass run. So yeah, between me loving his archetype and being one of the more fascinating underdogs in the show's history, Jason is my favorite chef of season 7. So there you have it, guys, my ranking of every season 7 chef. And again, let me know what you think of this cast in the comments below, and if anyone stands out for you, or if you think it's mostly forgettable. And be sure to hit that subscribe and like button to support the channel. And with all that said, take care everyone, and I'll see you next time.